Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television, Radio, and Podcast Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. As I get to ride on with you in the afternoon, I get to ride on with you. It's one of the most fun things of my day to get to sit down and talk with you, and also to receive email from you, Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. You can find us syndicated on the television. That's on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on the Newscasters studio. Always so fun to be part of that as well. And you can also find us on the radio, WZLA, the biggest country station in South Carolina. Definitely appreciate being part of their team as well. I wanted to mention too about the radio station, WZLA. Benji, who owns the station, does a morning. He'll read a Bible verse and he'll do a commentary on that Bible verse. And Benji, I don't know if you're listening right now, but I appreciate you doing that. It always happens to be something I need to hear. And sometimes it's around 8 o'clock when he does that. And but anyway, Benji, thank you again so much for being a light out there in a weird world. Speaking of a light in a weird world, I've got another one with me right now. His name is Clint Day. He's with the Newscasters studio. That's just taken off like gangbusters. Did you think 2 years ago you would be at this point with the Newscaster studio?
No, it's always like we know. It always has a small beginning, and you just watch God work things out, watch Him grow it, watch people work hard to make things happen, and then really good content, great people, great shows, and it makes a big difference. And the multiplier effect is just really incredible to watch. And the influence that we can have doing a podcast or doing radio, it is truly amazing the number of people we can reach with a positive message, a faith, a message of hope and encouragement. And, for some of us, it may be more faith-based, which my podcast, Clint Day Speaks Truth in Love, tends to be more that way, more, trying to find a Christian businessman or a nonprofit that's really making an entrepreneurial difference, creating a new idea and taking those, finding a need and fill it type thing. And I just really do enjoy the opportunities we have with the Newscaster studio. Thank you for mentioning it.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. And I mention it a lot. So
Thank you.
Everybody knows all about you guys. Well, it's truth and it's in content. I definitely appreciate that. I think people are tired of the same old, same old. I probably have more folks who watch the show than CNN does. So, I mean, it's
Wow.
just, I probably do. So many people, now they've got a few folks who are hooked on, but most people I know are just tired of the same old, same old. And I'll tell you, there's people who have never really been political before are saying things like that. They're saying, so what, do they all receive the same memo? And so I'll ask, I know what to talk about, but I'll say, what are you talking about? And I say, well, it seems like that most of the liberal is like that all the liberal media has the same talking points. They say the same thing, and they may smile a different way. That may be the only consolation is to see the difference. But it's like they're fed information, and that's what they get out there to the public.
You're exactly right. And when I look a lot of what their commentary is on different speeches, for example, when Trump went to Davos and he actually had to tell those world leaders and business people, the World Economic Forum, the reality of where they were taking things and the reality that America is the one who defends Europe, regardless of what they think. And the fact that, he was talking about getting more access to Greenland and wanting to buy Greenland, but he's such a great negotiator. He just gets everybody in a tizzy, or not everybody, but the liberals in a tizzy about, he's going to attack Greenland. Oh, man, can you believe it? And you're like, he's never going to attack Greenland, but he is going to get his way. He wants more access. He wants to defend America and Canada and Europe with the missile program, this Gold Dome or whatever they're going to call it up there, that's going to defend us from the enemy's attack from China and Russia, who are our biggest enemies. We know that. And I wish we could just call them competitors, But the reality that I'm excited about, at least the Russians and the Chinese want to live. And some of these religious zealots in the Middle East, they would just soon be dead as alive because of what they feel like is their reward when they die, as fighting the jihad or whatever. And I just go, we got to be very aware that our enemies do not like us. They don't like our freedom. They don't like the opportunities that we give the world. But we're the ones that we have to step up. And I don't like being the police of the world, but the reality is someone's going to fill that void, and it better be truth, justice, and the American way, as opposed to the dictatorship of China and Russia. And that's one thing we look at the world map. 20 years ago, there were a lot more democracies than there are today, including Venezuela. It's become, a socialist dictatorship, and we got to understand that we've got to fight for our freedom every day, defend it, and the people of America. And it's a concerning thing when we win elections 51-49. It's very concerning. The left has their vision and their agenda, so we've got to stand up and fight.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to ask you a quick question here. Okay, so we can see things, but it's because we go out and we research, you and I do, and a lot of folks do. But let's just pretend I've lived in a cave the past 20 years, and I have come out of this cave, and I'm seeing military people. I'm talking about really retired military folks who can't pay their bills. They can't get the medical attention they need. But then I see a whole lot of folks come over here illegally, and they're getting handouts. And then also, by the way, I've come out of this cave and I've got a job now, and I'm not taking home the entire $10, $15 an hour. Part of that's coming out in taxes. I have no control over how that money is being spent, but I'm seeing it spent on things I would rather not have it spent on. But then I still vote Democrat. What would you say to me?
I would say there's no difference between the old slave mentality on the plantation than the government handout. Instead of the slave, plantation owner, it's now you're dependent on the government, and you do not want to be dependent on the government. My parents started out in the first housing project in America, Techwood Homes. My dad was not retired, but he had left the military, the Marines, and he had gotten the GI Bill, so he was able to go to Georgia Tech. But he was not intending to stay at that housing project. His goal was to get out of there as soon as he could. He appreciated the temporary housing, the help the government did, the GI Bill. He would have never graduated Georgia Tech because of his grades from Mercer. He failed out of Mercer and then went to Georgia Tech. He would have never made it there without the GI Bill and the opportunity that afforded him. But the reality is his goal was not to stay there. So that's what I would say to anybody else out there, that yes, there might be a temporary net there from the feeding or whatever, but you do not want to become dependent on it. And we also don't want to destroy marriages and families by telling someone that if you get married, you're going to lose these benefits. There's got to be a way that we can encourage marriage, encourage the dad to be around the children and be involved with those children he's fathered. And of course, not for a permanent thing, but for a temporary thing, so eventually the family can get out. But there are so many things, as you know, laws that force people to remain single because of the benefits they so-called get. And again, it should be there for temporary help, not permanent, so you become dependent on it. Like the old slavery, that controlled people in ways that were just unreasonable and unfair, and didn't allow that person to accomplish the biggest goals. So I love it when I see people that want to say, look, this is a temporary thing, and I want to get help for temporary use, but I want to get out of it.
No, I love it being there. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
Not as a lifetime career choice.
That's right.
I think I'm glad it's there. It can help folks get divorces, especially with women, especially if they're getting no child support and they're not getting any help from the spouse, the ex-spouse. Temporary though. And in that meantime, you're looking for something better. And there should be no excuse, because there are so many companies now that will let you work out of your home. I mean, Lowe's and the big ones are letting people work out of their homes with customer service. And so I just, there's just absolutely no excuse to that whatsoever. But now I've heard my grandparents talk about before we had welfare, food stamps and stuff. People in the churches in the communities help people.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That's one thing that I'm convicted of all the time is, sometimes somebody will say I have a certain need, and you go, well, have you thought about this? And a lot of times it is pointing to the government, and your point is 100% correct. What can we individually do? How can we individually help someone? And I try to be aware of that. People in ministry, people that are taken in foster care. Every once in a while there's someone in my church that does foster care for a couple of children, and I just go, I just want to hear, I want to help, give you a little help with, here's a little cash or whatever, and here's a gift certificate for a restaurant or whatever. And it is such an important thing that we do to encourage people to not only have the ministry, because not everybody can be called, for example, to foster care, but we have a big need. And in our own community, a lot of churches at a point were trying to adopt, a family or whatever and be involved with that. But a lot of times it can be very overwhelming for families, and they get attached to the child or whatever, and they realize they got to let the child go back to the family, the family of origin, if you will, or a lot of times they're put up for adoption. And so there's a lot of emotions that go in through that. But again, whatever you're called to do, to serve, I think that's the best thing we can do. Where is God leading you to serve, and how can you help make a difference to one person? And I think that, you heard the proverbial, sand star or whatever, when the guy walking down the beach and they were all washed up on the beach and he was throwing one at a time back in the water, and he's like, and there are hundreds and hundreds still out on the beach. And he said, well, I made a difference to that one, and that's what I want to encourage people to do, is find out where you can serve in that one place and how you can help somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of organizations in this area right here have food drives. You may have a manufacturing company that has a couple thousand employees, and they'll ask one employee to bring one canned food to, something that's non-perishable. And then they'll find someone in the area, who can take that donation and distribute it to the people it needs to be. But and I'm glad we're in that country, because a lot of countries are not. And Phil and I have traveled a lot, and I'm just telling you, this is still the best country on earth. It really is.
Amen.
But I'd like to see a little more. I'd like to see a little more honor with President Trump. And I mean, I just really would. Now, when President Biden was president, I did say President Biden. I did, because it's the office of the presidency of the United States. I got a little bit of backlash from some of my Republican friends who asked me, would I talk to President Biden if he were available for interview? And I said, sure, I would, because he was the president of the United States. Now, I would do it in a graceful way, but he would probably have gotten the point where I believed. But I'm not seeing any kind of respect. The presidency of the United States is this AI stuff going on. I mean, it's just, they'll say he said something that's not even in temperament with him. So I know a couple of folks from Alabama, pretty high up in politics in Alabama, who did not like Trump. They said, Trump, I don't like him. And I said, well, who are you going to vote for? Well, a lot of them were Ted Cruz, which is a good guy. I really like Ted Cruz. But I kind of got bashed a little bit. And they said, well, why would you vote for him, for Trump? He's so loud. He's so this and he's so that. And I said, well, actually, it kind of makes me think of my dad in a lot of ways. I mean, we're just have a whole lot of time to do it in and just blurt it out. And I said, and they would say, you're not offended by the way he says that? And I'll go, no, I'm not. I mean, he's got it to say, and 9 times out of 10, he's saying things that you're thinking too. And you don't have the voice for it. So he's out there thinking it. Well, these two ladies got to meet President Trump. When they came back, they had a total different view of what he was like. And one of them, the one that just said, I hate him, I can't believe he's our president, she comes back and she said, you were right. And I'm like, what happened? And she said, well, I met him. And she was with a group of other people and got to meet him. And she said, nothing like I thought. She said, he actually asked me a question, and it was genuine, wanted to know about me. And she said, I thought I would not get a word in edgewise. And she said, he shut up and let me talk. And I said, oh, really? And she said, And then she said, and he was so cordial. And she said, and then we were told that Michelle Obama was so graceful and all this. She said there was no one more graceful than Mrs. Trump.
Absolutely.
Said she was
So
just like
true.
a lady and cordial, like it was her
Yes.
home.
That is so good. And again, I was a cruiser myself when he ran for president back in 2015, 16. And I am so grateful. Donald J. Trump is the best president we've ever had on policy, as far as I'm concerned. He's done more to protect the unborn. He's done more to protect religious freedom, the right to bear arms, freedom of speech. And he has done amazing things in the Middle East, protecting Israel. And I'm just a big believer that we need to protect Israel, that they are, I don't believe that Christians, quote, replace the blessings. I think we're grafted into those blessings. And I really do believe that he has done an incredible job, and he'll go down as one of the best, as in my view, the best president we've ever had on policy. Now, granted, do I wish sometimes he'd be a little kinder and a little more, Southern genteel in his language? Of course. But he is a New York successful businessman who has had to make the tough decisions. And I totally respect his ability to say, you know what, I need to make a change. Like for example, Minneapolis, he made the change, sent Tom Holman there. And we got to remember, Tom Holman was able to get illegal immigrants out in the millions under Obama, and Obama gave him an award for that. And so he's got more of a balanced approach than the other guy that was maybe getting a little heady with it, if you will, that they replaced him. So Trump understood as a businessman, this is not working, and we're going to make a change. But we also need to remember the illegal immigrants that have hurt or killed Americans, those families like Lincoln Riley and others, that there are many more than what ICE has supposedly hurt, and especially in situations where ICE leaders had to make a decision, a split-second decision of whether their life is going to be taken or the person that's coming toward them. And anytime you're defending yourself, I think you have a right to defend yourself. And yes, you can change things, and you wish you could change things. But when you're breaking the law and you're attacking someone, they have a right. The ICE agent has a right to defend themselves.
Have you ever had a dog that when the dog didn't quite understand what you were saying would tilt his head and he would just kind of look at you like, I'm doing that a lot now. And one reason I'm doing that, I'm like, from the very people who said wear a mask,
Yes.
people wear 4 or 5 masks if you can, all those people who said wear a mask are upset about ICE agents having to wear protection so their families are not being killed. I mean, they're
Well,
it's so funny.
I think what someone needs to do is start taking pictures of all the protesters and posting them the same way they're doing to the ICE agents. I mean, they ought to just start a list of putting on social media and fight fire with fire. If that's okay for you to do this to the ICE agents, then let's turn it around. Let's do it to them. And again, I believe you have a right to a peaceful protest, but when you start throwing water bottles that are iced, they're solid blocks of ice at ICE agents, and you start making all this noise, and you take your car and you stop them from being able to advance, you create roadblocks in a neighborhood. If somebody comes by in an SUV, you pull them over and find out who they are. I mean, folks, that we don't want that anarchy like that. We don't want those vigilantes doing that type of thing. And I don't want the right doing that either, for sure. And I think it's interesting. They try to call ICE agents white supremacists. And you know that both the ICE agents that were involved with the shootings that were so regrettable, so sad, were both Hispanic. And again, it doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong that they were defending themselves. And they have a right to defend themselves, just like all of us do.
Oh, yeah. So I would like to ask folks out there who are way far left, if you're having a situation, you're in a back alley and somebody is trying to kill you, would you rather have an ICE agent come to save you, or do you want someone illegal who hates the country? It's your choice which one you would rather.
Absolutely. So that's totally so true. And of course, it's gonna backfire on them. The blue,
No.
issues they backfired on them. Defund the police backfired on them, and I believe this is going to backfire on them too. When the statistics are really told, and we start running, Republicans start running ads of the people that have been hurt by illegal immigrants, and when you see the other side of it, I mean the left is very good at their spin. Sadly, that convinces a lot of people that, like you said earlier, drinking the Kool-Aid, and a lot of it does go back to where our source of news is. But the bottom line is find out, like you've already said, Donna, where the truth is and who you can listen to. And Donna, that's one thing we love about your show and what you do. You always tell people the truth, and you're right. You do the fact check. You make sure it's accurate.
Yeah, I don't look like a moron. I got to do fact check. Let's go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Good afternoon, everybody. We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television, Radio, and Podcast Talk Show. I've got Clint and Dave with me, who speaks the truth and does research. I would say you probably have a library somewhere.
Absolutely, we really do, and I could show it to you. So many books and so much truth, and to me, the main source of truth is definitely the Word of God. It always stands correct, and I know that every time I've tried to violate the Word of God, I've always paid a price. I mean, I don't care whether it's in business where you borrow too much money and you become slave to the lender, or again, just the reality of eating right and eating more healthy. There's so many things in the Bible that are so consistent with what's going to be the best way to live.
Oh, absolutely. You talked about slavery, and I can't imagine why anybody would want to be a slave to anybody. Slave to food, slave to whatever, slave to the government, which a lot of folks are. But I wanted to mention one lady, and she's on the show a lot. And this is, Diamond and Silk, but Silk, Diamond passed away, but Silk comes on the show, and Silk talks repeatedly. I bet in a 30-minute segment, she mentions slavery. And she really impounds on it. And she'll talk about, why do you want to be a slave to the government who could rip out that house that you're living in right now at any moment? They can decide they don't want to send you food stamps. They can decide they're not going to send you money to live on. They may take away the Obama phone. And that's exactly what she says. So why would, when you could just get up off your feet and just go make a positive influence and help others?
Totally agree with that. I mean, truth sets you free, and she says this speaks the truth. And I think it's important that we speak the truth in love, just like the Bible says, and that's all we can do. Just keep speaking the truth. And I was recently in Fort Pierce, Florida, which is where the Navy SEALs started. We had gone down there trying to get to a little warmer area. We all understand in South Carolina, in our area, that St. Simon's, how cold it got this winter, and we went down south, and so. We were down there, and I had made the mistake of not buckling myself in the back of my RV. My wife was driving. We were going to a restaurant. We was close enough. We felt like it was okay. And I was buckled down on my scooter itself, but I was not buckled in my scooter. And so I took my eyes off the road. You want to keep your eyes on the road when you're traveling like that. And she had to hit her brakes, and I fell on the floor. My left leg was pretty much spaghettied. I had some bleeding on my face, and it was very painful. And so she pulled off the side of the road into a shopping center area. And I said, "Is there anybody around? Can you see anybody?" And she said, "Yes. I see a guy coming out of a medical marijuana store, of all things. He's coming out of the store with headphones." And of course, my beautiful blonde hair wife opens the van door and RV door and says, "Hey, can you help us?" And he's kind of like, "Well, I guess I can." And so he comes over, and his name was Tracy Chapman, of all things. And he said, "My dad had a stroke and I helped him. Maybe I can help you." But he's like, "Well, I really can't lift you up on that scooter." And so they got the scooter out of the way and got me flat on the ground and in the RV. And then we have this lift in my van that helps me because I have muscular dystrophy, and it can help me get in the bed and that type of thing. So they got this like a fishnet around me, and they got me up on the seat. And I'm up on the seat, and I'm calming down, and like I say, I'm bleeding pretty bad on the right side of my face. I got a bruised eye coming along. And sure enough, he's like, "Well, I'm talking to him about Christ, and getting involved with the church. Maybe God allowed me to have this little accident so I could talk to you, encourage you." And he pointed up to the sky and said, "Well, I've got a lot of questions for him, as questions for God." And as I was talking to him, of course, I told him about how God helped me overcome marijuana. And March 7th, 1981, I quit smoking it, and God changed everything from there. And he's just, listening to me, and I'm encouraging him to, get involved with the church, find a group of men you can be with that'll encourage you. And I'm just, trying to convince him that this is a divine appointment that God's allowed to happen. And he kind of, like nods his head a little bit, somewhat agreement. But, sometimes we get away from God, and he allows people in our lives to try to point us back to what really matters. But anyway, he talked to me for a few minutes. We had a good conversation. He was estranged from his family, his brothers, and just trying to give him hope. And then he tells me where to go to the hospital, which is like 2 miles away. It was actually a Cleveland clinic in Stuart, Florida. So we drive down there, and we check in. The lady that is checking us in at the first step, her name is Genesis. We get into a triage room in an ER. Now, ERs. Within 10 minutes, my Filipino male nurse, his name is Emmanuel. The doctor's name is Michael, like Archangel Michael. There's a tech guy comes along to x-ray my leg to make sure it wasn't broken. His name is Mark. And they send me to an x-ray for my head. Her name is Kristen. And I just go, "Lord, I can't make this stuff up." Again, sometimes we have things that set us back, accidents, painful things, but what's going to be our response? How are we going to react to it? And God allowed me to encourage a man that was hurting, that helped me because I was hurting. And my wife, of course, stayed calm. Sonia was just incredible. I mean, she's a caregiver, former school teacher, so she was totally calm. And God just took care of me. I got 4 stitches in my face, and it's healing pretty good, and bruised eye and stuff. My left leg's pretty bruised up. But God really supernaturally took care of me. But the key to that is buckle up. Buckle up for safety. you know. and so I can't blame anybody but myself. But I also took my eye off of where I was going. Right? We were driving down Highway 1 in Florida, and I took my eye. I started getting distracted by the news or whatever I was reading on my iPhone or something. And I think that's a really key thing is we got to keep our eye on what God wants us to keep it on and not let the world distract us and get us not looking in a different direction, because we never know when that sudden change is going to happen, and we're going to have to be in a position to respond. And I just want to encourage people out there, there's a real opportunity for us to keep our eyes in the right place and not be deceived by those that want to take us off the right road.
Absolutely. That's a great lesson. I'm sorry you got hurt, but we all needed to hear that, Clint.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry too, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, I have a sister that was epileptic and was taking a shower, and she had a seizure, and fell and hit her head and never woke up, and she was in her early 60s. And fortunately, she knew Jesus, but you just don't ever know. And that's why we got to live life to the fullest every day and keep looking up, because our redemption draws near, because God's got us. He's going to take care of us. He's got the best plan for us. And yes, we're going to have times of the desert, but there's also those times of the promised land, and we need to learn from both of them.
And we just have to pay attention to and things that are right in our face. And I'm talking about the government right now, things that are right in our face. We've got to pay attention to it so we can know not to follow blindly.
Amen. And good men and women must be willing to stand up and take the fight. I mean, and stand for what is right, regardless, and speak out. And don't let your neighbors and don't let other people just tell you, put you in a pigeonhole. Be willing to show them love, but speak the truth in love.
Absolutely. Clint, we got to go. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Right.
It's always such
a pleasure. Thank you.
Always is here on my end. And Phil always appreciates the shows with you as well. So I wanted to thank everybody, also all of our new sponsors. I want to thank you guys for the confidence that you've placed in us for advertising. We definitely appreciate that as well. Wanted to mention this Dr. Chuck, who is a chiropractor, and everybody calls him Dr. Chuck. And so he has probably helped Phil on his back. Phil is probably not going to have back surgery. So anyway, huge help there. But thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.